I am Jennifer Foxworthy, and I am a domestic violence thriver. I came from a broken place. As a young girl, I was looking for love and acceptance in the wrong places, and I didn't feel pretty. My self-esteem was low, and I didn't know my worth. I was punched, slapped, and called names. I was lied to and missed all the warning signs. But today, I am happily married to my loving husband, Tom. I am a mother, an author, a motivational speaker, an entrepreneur, and I am your host of Living Unshackled on Purpose. Welcome, everyone, to Living Unshackled on Purpose. I am your host, Jennifer Foxworthy. I'm the founder and CEO of Unstoppable You Ministries, Inc., and I couldn't be more blessed with this nonprofit organization. I have a tremendous board of directors. Some are already on here or will be joining us. So I would like to recognize our board member, Crystal, Liz, Camille, Kathy, and our honorary member, Isaiah. So you can use your reactions and say hello. I am excited about this show. January is National Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And many people do not realize this heinous enterprise, this criminal activity affects so many. And I think it's important, and I'm grateful for you to tune in, to be in the live audience, to learn about this. So I hope that you glean from it, that it will educate and empower you. Before I get started with interviewing the guests, I always like to give a moment to give God a glory. So if you could take a moment of silence and as I pray. Heavenly Father, I just thank you so much for waking us up this morning. I know that it is a true blessing because there are many out there who are suffering in silence, who are trapped in bondage, and they need support, services, and help, Father God. I just thank you so much for blessing us with the courage to be in the trenches to help these victims and survivors to get back on their feet, to provide justice for them and lead them to you, oh Lord. Thank you for each and every person who took the time out of their morning to join us. And I just ask that you give us the awareness and the insight that we need and bless this show overall. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So thank you, thank you, thank you. So I have three extraordinary guests because Justice is joined with her daughter, Co-Trika. And then we also have Mary Kate. We're going to dive right into my questions that I have for Justice and Co-Trika. But first, I want you to know who Justice is. I'm just going to read a little bit of her bio so you have some background. So Justice C. Maddox graduated with a degree in Human Services from Harrisburg Area Community College. That's HAC. And she has gone on to complete a Bachelor's of Science degree as a clinical social worker and certified recovery specialist from Pennsylvania State University. Through both her education and professional experience as a human trafficking caseworker with the YWCA, child protection investigator at Peace River, and as a foster parent, Justice has seen firsthand the dehumanizing lifestyle and heartbreaking impact of surviving human trafficking. I could go on about Justice. She has been extraordinary over these past few months as I have gotten a chance to get to know her. And I really want you to get to know Justice and her daughter as well. Again, they are in the trenches. They are advocates. They are on the front lines. So please use your reaction icons to give a high five and thumbs up as we welcome Justice and Co-Trika. Yay! Thank you so much, ladies.
Well, thank you for having us here today. It's an honor to be here and to help educate about human trafficking. Our facility is a human trafficking facility for at-risk youth children who have been traumatized either by sex trafficking or labor trafficking.
Okay. Wow, Justice. Now, Justice, how did you get into human trafficking? I mean, because it's a labor of love, and it's very, very tough. And there I've had some moments where I went numb, you know, when we've helped our victims and survivors. So how did you find yourself in this?
Well, first, I've had a passion to help others for over 20 years. The reason why I've dedicated myself to helping others to see or to thrive is because I am a thriver of domestic violence and sexual assault. Um, and at the age of 12, I was raped by the perpetrator, and I had gotten pregnant. My firstborn, who is Co-Trika, who's here with us today, as a product of that. With the passion of knowing what domestic violence and sexual assault is, that enabled me to give more and to help others that was in the need or in the trenches of losing it all or not understanding how to deal with the trauma that they endure as a youth. At the age of 12, once again, I was a child, so I didn't know much, but that made me wanting to give back to the community, to the children that has been raped or abused or even sold. So that's my passion, how I got into becoming an advocate for human trafficking.
Wow, Justice. Well, thank you so much again for having such a heart to care. Again, it can be daunting but rewarding at the same time. Um,
Mhm.
I graduated with my master's in social work May of 2020, so I totally understand the need to and the passion for human services and to for advocacy and to fight for the rights of those who struggle to find their footing and who've been taken advantage of. So my next question for you is, what is the definition of human trafficking? And who are the most vulnerable?
All are vulnerable, so I would definitely say that.
Okay.
Human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion, or to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. Traffickers use force, fraud, or coercion to lure their victims into exploitation. The most target population of trafficking are homeless and runaways youth. That includes immigrants from others that's being smuggled over to the U.S., current residents that's in our community today. Um, the LGBTQ community is also one of our high risk level of trafficking, and that's involving starting with the youth of the age of 13.
Wow. I definitely have seen uh and I know that you had wanted we asked Anna to be a survivor guest on the show. And although I don't Anna wasn't able to join us because of her schedule, but she was brought here from Russia for adoption, and there's something went wrong with the adoption, so she went in and out of the foster care system and then end up running away, and that's how she met that Romeo pimp, and that became her added nightmare. um, Justice, would you say that the vulnerable, they're looking for a sense of belonging or family? What makes them vulnerable from maybe um, somebody from the, you know, in the rest of the population? What characteristics are traffickers looking for? And you or Co-Trika could answer this question.
Well, I think with the survivor, they're looking for love. They're looking for a figure of a positive role model. And when they get involved with someone that's older than them and they give them that attention or that love or that not having, or being in a poor community, or they don't have clothing. So if someone showers them with love, they're looking for some type of love. They're looking for a place that they are needing or wanting to be, someone who cares about them, someone that wants to show them what is right and what is wrong. So when youth get caught up into this situation, most of the youth get caught is because they're going through something. They might be going through something at home. They might be dealing with domestic violence. They might be dealing with sexual assault. They might be dealing with religion. Sometimes some of the kiddos that we help or work with, if they come out and say there are LGBTQ community, so parents or family, they back away from them, they shun them. So they're looking for a sense of need. They're looking for a sense of love, a sense of wanting to be here. So that gets them caught up with that. And it becomes a heavy price that they have to pay at the end.
You're absolutely right. Co-Trika, would you like to add anything onto that?
I think it's also important to understand that all those who have been victimized as a human traffic victim does not necessarily come from the sex trade population. There are a ton of people who are brought over here who are trafficked due to labor. So when I think of it in a general sense, it's the broken, it's the needy, it's the poor, it's the rejected. It's more than just sex trade. We are slaving other people. So I think it's important to understand that it just comes from a place of brokenness or not having. So we have a broad spectrum of reasons as to why. And I can't specifically identify what type a person would be a victim, because it can happen to just about anyone. And I think we need to be mindful of that. Even when you deal with situations where there's gang relationships in the community, a lot of the young girls who are involved with gang members are trafficked.
Yes.
You can come from good communities, poor communities. It's everywhere.
You're spot on, with the gangs, that the initiation, even boyfriends. I know that our organization, we provide emergency services, training, and supportive resources to individuals, families who are affected by domestic violence, human trafficking, and homelessness. Many don't realize that a person could intersect or deal with all three. So a victim that we had early in 2020, she was being trafficked by her boyfriend, and he set up the clients, told her about it, and she refused. But unfortunately, they ganged her, and she tried to. Eventually, we were able to get her to safety, but the trauma she experienced was just jaw-dropping. And she was 40 years old.
Right.
In her 40s. And unfortunately, she had some mental and emotional and medical issues as well. And unfortunately, what I recognize is many of our shelters, number one, the resources for human trafficking in certain areas are not a lot. I know here in Southern Maryland, where I am, you have a few domestic violence shelters, but that's it. But human trafficking and domestic violence, how you treat the victim or what that victim is going through, are completely different.
Yes.
And, how do you support them and get them the resources that they need? And many times low self-esteem could be a common trait, but it's just such a horrible web of modern day slavery. So my next question for you is, how does human trafficking affect different cultures?
Well, as an advocate, we care deeply about the children who are trapped and abused and exploited with the sex trafficking or labor trafficking. And when you're trying to help people to come from that, and they're coming from a different culture, many things happen. because different culture believes in different things. As African American, Latino, the Caucasian, all the different races, certain things will hold you back from not telling or not to be able to express what is going on, because in different cultures, we are told that what happens in their household stays in their household. So that means that you do not tell on granddad or uncle, cousin, or whomever that you may be around. But the culture aspects can come from different things. Sometimes people are brought up and raised to be married at a young age because of their culture. Sometimes it's an obstacle that the victim are being taught that this is what they need to do, and are being taught that it's okay to do these things. So different cultures comes in and plays a different factor in everyone's life. For an example, even with African American, you're taught, you don't see many of them going for therapy or counseling because they're afraid of what other people are going to think. So that's a curse that's been brought on different population in different cultures that allow them not to say anything or to respond to certain things because their parents have taught them not to say anything. So culture and religion is also a part of it. There's two key elements to consider in religion: spiritual and family structure. Both of those elements creates a common set of value and ideals and a perspective among members of the society. In many ways, culture is what brings people together. In some circumstances, and however, cultures can act as a barrier as well. And this can be especially true in some of our sex trafficking situations, in which culture difference can act and have a different obstacle, keeping victims from accessing help because they're afraid to do that. They're afraid to reach out because of the culture that they have been taught or what to do and not to do.
You're absolutely right. Like in the Asian culture, it's all, it's about honor. You don't bring any type of disrespect on the family. So again, you keep it in. The African American culture, the Black culture, the tradition of what stays in this house, what goes on in this house, it stays in this house. And many times, just like domestic violence, you just want the issue to stop. You don't want to get anybody in jail or in trouble. You just want to stop. But unfortunately, you have to speak up and speak out. Co-Trika, do you have anything to add, hon?
I think that it's important to understand that culture does play a part of it, but it's even more important to understand that shame is what is paramount, which transcends throughout all cultures. So you have a victim who is ashamed by whatever reason, whether it's sex trade or you're being molested. So I think as a community, we have to understand the shame that comes with that and help our conquerors survive that and identify that, it is not their fault. They are not to be ashamed and that they can overcome. So culture plays a great deal in this, but I think throughout all cultures and people, it's the shame that keeps them shackled.
Absolutely. And that's why awareness is so important, because if we educate ourselves on what this is, what it looks like, and what local, state, and national resources are available, it's just so important. I realized that Maryland is number 15 in the United States of reported human trafficking cases. And Maryland, when you look at the geographical size, it's small, compared to your New York and California's. But the fact that Maryland is number 15 is heartbreaking. And that's because you have I-95 running from Maine all the way down to Florida. You have 3 major airports, BWI, Reagan, and Dulles. We are also near water, so it's not uncommon for traffickers to bring their victim from Delaware over to the coast of Maryland by way of boat. And especially when you have casinos and major sporting events, many people need to be aware of why this is so lucrative. Justice Katrika, so I wanted to know, you have provided such helpful information and great insight. How can we support your nonprofit organization, Justice House for Hope, Inc.?
So, Mama, you want to talk about this, or you want me to just kind of talk about it?
You can
All
go.
right, so with Justice House of Hope, what we're looking to do is to help victims of human trafficking. We identify our clientele as the youth, up to upwards of 21. So we're looking to help them get counseling. We're looking to help them medical care, things of that nature. The major thing that we are working on currently is housing. We are looking to create a shelter so that we can house these victims, so that they have a place to go where they're safe. So what we're looking for is just, financial assistance with regards to that. And the other thing that is very important, I think that's most important, is for everyone to be knowledgeable of this. We want everyone to be educated. We want everybody to have understanding. We want everybody to understand the importance of why we need to help, why we need to break these chains. So overall, education, understanding, learn about it, seek us out, get the information. But definitely we are looking to open up a building so that we can house our youth.
I think that is so commendable. Anyone in our audience and beyond, because this is being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, Unstoppable You Ministries, Inc. Justice Katrika, they live in the Harrisburg, Pennsylvania area. If you know of anybody that would be willing to assist them or guide them in their goal of opening up a safe house for victims and survivors, we'll make sure that their information is in the chat. One of you ladies can add that into the chat box, or you can, say your website, or actually give it now. How can people contact you? How would you like people to contact you if they would like to volunteer, support monetarily, or any type of donations, anything that you need? How would you like the audience to contact you?
Well, they can reach out to us through our email, justice@justicehouseofhope.org, or give us a call. Our telephone number is 717-208-4428. We are on social media, so we are on LinkedIn, we are on Facebook, we are on Instagram. So there's many ways that you can reach out to us. And even if you just want us to talk to the individuals, or to yourself, to parents, because the first thing that we must do first is to educate our parents and to see the signs. So there's many ways that you can reach out to us. So just look at us through LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram. We'd be more than happy to help.
Fantastic. Justice and Katrika, before I wrap up with your portion of the interview, could you briefly give us a victim or survivor, a person that you've interacted with, helped, and what did that look like? And I want to put up front, maybe something you hear may be a trigger, so just be advised. But again, it's important for us to know what this looks like and what a human trafficking victim, what they may go through and what their needs are and how tough it is to get that support. So if you could briefly paint that picture for us.
Well, I'll give a story. When I was working in Florida, and I was a child protective investigator, so that means that I went out to different homes or different schools and do investigation on children that have either been abused physically, sexually, or domestic violence. I had went to this home, and then I did a report to have the children removed. Because at that time I thought it was domestic violence. Make a long story short, finding out the kids were 9, 11, and 13. So the 9-year-old was the one that was going to school and telling what was going on at home, but not giving the correct information, just a lot of abuse that was going on. So she decided that she wanted to get out of that. So she went to her guidance counselor and told the story. So we went in. So we were going to remove the kids from mom and dad, which we wind up finding out more information. But that took a while. It took about maybe a month and a half for us to get the information out of the kiddos. So the kiddo finally disclosed, well, every weekend from Friday to Sunday afternoon, we leave. And so the question was, leave to go where? With my mom's friend. Okay, so who's your mom's friend? I don't know. He comes and get us every Friday. Now, grant you, 9, 11, and 13 is kind of young. So to find out, mom had an addiction, a drug addiction. So she was allowing for the drug dealer to take her 3 kids for the weekend. So you can imagine what happened on the weekend to these individuals. We found out that these kids were being trafficked to help mom with her addiction. She allowed for those kids to go. The funny thing with that is that they knew to have the kids back home Sunday night, Sunday afternoon, before they can go to school. So on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, they were being sold, traded for sex acts. Some of the kids did, one of the child did a lot of the labor, cleaning up or going to restaurants and helping out, doing those different things, which was sad. And the child went through a lot, but that right there was the story that needed to be shared, because these 3 individuals was only doing what mom told them to do. And by her having an addiction, she wasn't in the right state of mind. They still wanted to be with mom. And if they did not leave, because sometimes they didn't want to go because they knew the bad things that was going to happen, that they would beat, the drug dealer would beat the mom. So then that forced them to go. So they had no way out. They had to go. They were being told that they needed to do these things, and they were helping the household. So they were just being used, forced, and coerced to do things to help first mom addiction, and plus to have a roof over their head, because they didn't have anywhere to go because the drug dealer was taking care of paying the rent. So he was being financial, economical for the mother, but using the 3 kids, and trauma really got with these kids. So we were able to move these kids out and help the children to a safe house, which we find out in the long run that more things had happened, and then the kids
Not so safe.
disclosed. Yeah, the kids had to disclose what had happened. So, we were able to save them, but how long did they go through that? You know what I mean?
Oh,
that was some of the questions that were being asked. So I think, like, just giving you that piece of information and understanding that kids are doing what's told. Kids don't know how to make that correct answer to say, no, I'm not doing this and I don't care, until they're being groomed at young ages. They're being told what they need to do. They're fighting in front of their parents for them to make the decision, well, if I don't go, my mom's going to lose her life. So I think that story for me allowed me to stay into human trafficking and wanted to make a difference in working with at-risk youth, was because of this family, this particular family here. So
thank you so much, Justice, for putting it out there. We've also worked with a lady who was basically trafficked to the landlord by her mother from the age of 7 to 18. So if you think that these stories are just something that happens in another country, you are sadly mistaken. Parents who are dealing with addictions, and especially COVID-19, and I'm going to kick this over to Mary Kate when I interview her. COVID-19 has brought its own dynamic situations to domestic violence and human trafficking and homelessness. And at the end of this, we're also going to have a Q&A, a question and answer, where the audience will be able to engage the guest. So this is not the last that you'll hear of Justice and Co-Trika, her daughter. But I want to be able to get to Mary Kate as well. This is just such a plethora of information, and I want to try and stay within the time. But Oh, good gracious. Thank you so much, ladies, for all that you do, for all that you've shared. And I will continue to pray for you both and your team and
Thank
support you. I
you.
know that this will not be the last that we collaborate. Thank you so much. So if we could give a round of applause with our icons, our reactions, our hands to Co-Trika and Justice. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow. The reason why I'm wearing blue is because National Human Trafficking Awareness Month, the ribbon color is blue. So after this, and from here on out in January, wear something blue and tag us, email it, the picture, the video, something, but it will show your support for human trafficking awareness. Ribbon color is blue. So on to our next guest, Miss Mary Kate Soliva, just such a dynamo. I met her through LinkedIn. She saw that we had a common connection. Not only is she a veteran, but she has a passion for human trafficking, and I can't wait for her to share that with you. But just a brief synopsis of who Mary Kate Soliva is. So she is a volunteer ambassador of Shared Hope International. She is also a U.S. Army Special Operations soldier. She joined the fight to combat human trafficking in 2012 while as a student at the University of Guam, and continues to bring awareness in and out of uniform. Mary Kate is very active on her social media. Again, you must, if you're on LinkedIn, find her, connect with her. You will glean, you will learn so much from Mary Kate. Mary Kate, I welcome you.
Thank you so
How are
much,
you
Jennifer.
doing?
I'm doing fine, and it's so great to see so many people here today. And thank you so much, Co-Trika and Justice. That was amazing, amazing insight into this lucrative crime. And I'm so glad that you mentioned about the color blue, Jennifer, because that's literally where my journey started. So, but yes, I am a volunteer ambassador of Shared Hope International, and I wanted to point that out because I think there is that misconception that you have to be a lawyer or a first responder, in law enforcement or something to be part of this fight, but you don't need to be. I'm not any of those things. I'm in the Army, and I started this this fight to combat human trafficking before I went on active duty, and I still continue to do it in and out of uniform.
Outstanding. I think it's important for our veterans because veterans are deployed all around the world, and we will see things, and sometimes we can be the first person that speaks up and speaks out. So it's not just to country, but it's to humanity. So Mary Kate, can you give us a background? The initiatives and things that you've done has just been simply extraordinary. How did your passion develop?
Yes, well, I do want to start off with, if some of you have not heard of Shared Hope International, it is a nonprofit, non-governmental Christian organization, though some of us that are part of the organization are of different faith backgrounds. But our main purpose is to restore hope for women, children who fall victim to human trafficking. And what's so great about Shared Hope International is it also has programs in not only in the United States, but in India, Nepal, and Jamaica. So I love the fact that you may see it more this month on your social media, that there's programs that are happening all over the world. So this isn't just something that's happening overseas, but as mentioned in the earlier interview, it is happening here in the United States. And it was actually while I was in graduate school at the University of Guam, I heard about the first known human trafficking case there. They call it the Blue House Lounge case. And at the time it was still ongoing, so I couldn't do my studies on that case, but I was actively reading the newspapers about it every day, and I was like, what is this human trafficking and how is it here on our island? Guam being a U.S. territory of about approximately 100,000 people, a very small island, but I was like, how is it here? And so I really started deep diving into that and finding that this was something I became passionate about. And so I summoned up over 40 university students from the University of Guam to assist me. We stood at the intersections of Marine Corps Drive, the main road on the island, holding up signs saying it's happening. And we really wanted to bring awareness. Guam has a big U.S. Air Force base, a big Navy base, and we do have the Army Guard there as well. And so we really were trying to stop as well to bring awareness not only to the U.S. service members, but also to the local community. And what was so great was local politicians, nonprofits, and even the U.S. Attorney, former U.S. Attorney Alicia Olympiako's office also joined with us on the street corner to raise awareness. And we did raise funds by asking for donations for blue ribbons, as you mentioned, Jennifer. And that was sort of how we took off there.
Amazing. Just the simple gesture of holding up a sign, what's happening, because what that provokes is people wanting to know happening what's happening. And then you can start the conversation. Well, human trafficking is happening right here. And you know what that leads me? I don't know if many people have heard of the Red Sand Project, but Unstoppable Youth Ministries, we are taking part in the Red Sand Project. And we have actually collaborated with Human Trafficking Task Force in York, Pennsylvania, as well as Maryland State. And this packet, I'll give you more information, but it's the red sand, and it's a very creative way to start that conversation, very similar to what Mary Kate did. So I'll explain more about the Red Sand Project towards the end if we have time. So thank you, Mary Kate, for again being on the front lines and being in uniform to bring awareness to this issue. So you told me it's about what other initiatives do you currently have or have been a part of that you're able to share with us briefly?
Yes, one of the initiatives that I'm actually working on now is to bring this awareness and training to U.S. service members across all branches. I realize that it happens across the board in onesie twosies, but I really would like to see the end state being that this is something that's provided to bring in speakers, bring in law enforcement. And I think people aren't aware that you can actually bring in these speakers for free. It doesn't always cost money if your organization doesn't have the funding to bring in somebody, an expert in this field, to come speak on the subject. I know for here out of Cumberland County, we have a human trafficking task force. A human trafficking unit that's devoted out of the Fayetteville Police Department to combat these crimes and to deal with these crimes. And so Fort Bragg was able to bring in some of these people to speak, the detectives, and even the State Bureau of Investigation I know has spoken here in Fayetteville as well. And it's just a great thing to be able to hear from the experts who are dealing with these cases day in and day out to speak on this. So that is something that I'm trying to work with. One of the programs we do have is the SHARP program. So it's the Sexual Harassment Assault Response Prevention Program. And I'm looking at possibly getting that added into the SHARP program, even if it's something that's just tagged on at the end, but at least it's a start to get that conversation going.
Phenomenal, Mary Kate. Wow. You're young and you're doing it. And that shows people you don't have to be a social worker or, in the legal industry or what have you. Everybody needs to rise up. Our educators, our church leaders, community leaders, guardians, foster parents, anybody, business owners, hotel managers. My goodness, hotels have no idea, or either they're turning a blind eye, that their hotel is being used to bring these trafficking victims in with the client. So everyone needs to be aware. And I'm just thankful that we are having this episode and so many people have logged on to join us. It's just simply extraordinary. So Mary Kate, my next question to you is, what are some of the myths about human trafficking?
Yes, I'm really glad you asked that, because one of the big myths I feel like is that it is something that happens overseas, as you mentioned, when it's not. It's happening here in the United States, and the people don't realize that it could be the pastors, the doctors, the lawyers, the prominent, not only the white collar, the blue collar. They're of all different, as we mentioned, as Co-Trika mentioned earlier, about not being able to recognize necessarily the victim of just one color or just from impoverished situations, but it goes the same with the buyers and the traffickers. You know, they come from all different backgrounds, all different races, all different ages. And so that is something I think that we need to open our eyes to, is that you don't know when it's your neighbor happening, it's happening in your neighborhood. Also, you can be trafficked out of your own house. I think trafficking sometimes is a misleading word, because we think trafficked, we think you're going across borders, someone's shoving you in a car and you're going over the border somewhere, but that's not necessarily the case at all. You can be, a lot of times the victim knows their trafficker, and in those situations, they could be trafficked out of their own home, and unfortunately by someone that should be a person of trust.
You said it, sister. You said it. And why human trafficking is so lucrative is because it's a human body. It's never ending. Unlike drugs, it has a shelf life. Once you use it, it's done. But a human body, it can be used over and over again. And it's not
Yes.
uncommon, the average time that a victim is with clients, like it could be from 12 to 37 times a day. And the average age of a targeted victim is 12 to 14 years old. And people who have their children in college do not think that they're exempt, because college kids, they're looking to earn extra money. So they may answer those ads for modeling and things like that. And then when they get to the location where the modeling is supposed to be, and it's, number one, do not go by yourself, let somebody know. But number two, just be mindful. Not everything that is on Craigslist or out there on social media is helpful. And so unfortunately, then the college kid, student is blackmailed and coerced to be put into situations. So again, education is key. Mary Kate, I can't thank you enough for sharing those myths. Many people think that traffickers are just male. No, they're female.
Right.
Absolutely.
And I think that's why it's so important we wake ourselves up to and to look at what your local laws are. Because when we talk about the force and coercion part, why are they able to do that? Because prostitution is illegal, and then they pump them with drugs, which is also illegal. So
Yes.
the victims will feel trapped, like, okay, well, I can't come out for help because now I'm going to get arrested. And unfortunately, in this country, we still have states who prosecute and put the victims in jail, and they don't get the help that they desperately need.
You're spot on. You're spot on. Yes. We have a ways to go. And not every state is proactive or have the legal, have things legally out there to protect the victims, to protect the children. And I know, like the Child Protective Services, they're swamped, they're overwhelmed, and many times the issues go undetected or unreported or followed up on. So we really need to do our due diligence. I want to ask, and I can't remember if you shared it or not, how can we support Shared Hope International?
Yes, absolutely. So what's great with Shared Hope International, and I was so fortunate that while I was in graduate school in Guam, I was assisting the U.S. Attorney at the time with her human trafficking task force, and I was invited to go to the island nation of Palau to speak with her at a conference discussing human trafficking in the Pacific. And what was so great was that Congresswoman Linda Smith was there, and she is the founder of Shared Hope, and she has been in this fight for decades. And not only is she here in the U.S., as I mentioned before, she's in other countries as well with programs there. And when I put it in the chat about how you can be a trained volunteer ambassador of Shared Hope like I am, no matter what background you have, they'll provide those resources to you. If you're a pastor, if you have a local church, there are resources on the website that you can get videos and materials to talk to people at your church about this. If you can also talk about, there's also materials to talk about the gang life as well. But I put the information on the link, and you can also, I urge the men, as we said, it's not just, I see a lot of times we have women in the audience, but I love to see that we have men in the audience as well, because we do have the defenders. So I'm so grateful that our men are in the audience today. You are absolutely needed at the forefront of this fight, and you can become a defender as well. And I also included the number and the email in the chat that you can contact us as well.
Extraordinary. Thank you so much, Mary Kate. What is one last thing that you would like the audience to know that maybe I didn't ask? Briefly share, because in that way we can get into the Q&A and everything else.
Yes, absolutely. Well, as I mentioned, I have my degree is actually in public administration, and so I don't have, again, the law degree or experience in sociology or in nursing. But when I was stationed up in Maryland, outside of Fort Detrick, I assisted the Frederick County Commission for Women to establish a human trafficking task force. And all that took from me was my time, being able to speak in front of the local city council and say, hey, law enforcement, their hands are tied. FBI, their hands are tied. There's only so much they can do. And in the middle of the night, when you have this victim who needs clothing, who needs food, a safe place to stay, that's where these task forces and organizations can come in. So if it doesn't exist and you have the passion heart for it, I encourage you to join up with other people in your community to start something. And again, when I came here to Fort Bragg, I was able to be a volunteer for a nonprofit organization here who unfortunately lost their grant. They're no longer here. But what I was able to do, a survivor that I assisted here in the area, she was actually born and raised here in the state of North Carolina, and she's a white woman around the same age as me and a mother. And what I thought was, she basically debunked all those myths that we have about, having to be someone from overseas. She was born and raised, she's a U.S. citizen, she's white, she's a young woman and a mother. And I just thought that was incredible. And the fact of who she told me were the buyers, I urge you to also spread awareness to everybody, because you just don't know who's buying. And I think with pop culture now and what we see now, we're sensitizing sex, and people think watching pornography is a harmless crime, a victimless crime, but it's not. And so I think the awareness factor is critical and paramount. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary Kate. Human trafficking is the second highest global criminal activity. It brings in $150.2 billion per year, and it affects over 40 million people worldwide, men, women, and children. So it's sex, there's labor, and the victim could end up doing both. They come from other countries, they are right here in the United States. Many times it's the low self-esteem, or again, it's the false advertisings of a job. It all starts in the home. How are you building your children up, your grandchildren, the children in your life, to build them up to have healthy self-esteem and self-love, so that they won't fall into the pitfalls and traps of what many other victims have, looking for love, looking for acceptance. as well as knowing who they are around. Just don't let your child go to sleepovers over anybody's home. Obviously you don't want to hover and you want to protect them, but again, it's all about educating them. And I was so grateful. So the Red Sand Project, I have a 10-year-old son, Noah, and he hears mommy talking, and I educate him about human trafficking and how people are being harmed. So the Red Sand Project in 2014, there was a woman named Molly Gottman, who is an artist who wanted to do something creative to bring attention to human trafficking, this heinous crime. And so what she did was she grabbed some red sand and started sprinkling it into the cracks. So the color red represents the lives lost due to human trafficking, and then putting it in the cracks represents no one should fall through the cracks to not receive the services that they so deserve. I have these packets. Unstoppable Youth Ministries, again, we're supporting, we're collaborating with Human Trafficking Task Force, but we purchase packets, and it also comes with this literature. I am willing, if you want to fill in the cracks in front of your home, your hotel, your businesses, your church, whatever. I don't care where you are in the United States. If you would like a packet of red sand to join our initiative, please reach out to me or our organization. Send me an email. I will get your address. I will ship this packet. The only thing that I ask is that you, and I would ask for, shipping. We'll put a flat rate to that. Just tag us. Take a picture, take a video of you doing the red sand. But there's a video on my timeline on Facebook and on LinkedIn where me and my son, we filled in the cracks in our driveway with this red sand. And it was very symbolic because it got him involved and engaged as well. So that's the Red Sand Project. I know we have like 9 minutes left. I'm going to take 2 minutes and then we'll get into Q&A real quick. So I have a huge gift basket from Cracker Barrel and a beautiful gift basket from Texas Roadhouse. They donated these gift baskets so that we could raffle off in our virtual event. So I have everyone who registered, I have a number next to your name. So hopefully you're on here. So I'm gonna start with this big one from Cracker Barrel, this gift basket. And I'm going to ask Justice to give me a number from 1 to 44.
10.
10. Let's see who I have as number 10. Is May Sablin on here? May Sablin. If May Sablin is on here, you have to be present to win. And clearly we only have 30 participants. So if the person is not on here, they don't get this gift basket. If May Sablin is on here, please unmute yourself and show your face and say, hey, I'm here. You have 10 seconds. Okay, that was a quick 10 seconds, but again, I want to get to your questions and answers. So Justice, give me another number, please.
13.
13. Marina Rabinick. Marina Rabinick. If that is you, please unmute yourself. If this is going to be too crazy, I'll just close my eyes and just pick a number. Okay, Justice, one more time. Pick a number, please.
Let's go for 7.
Okay, number 7. Dion Goss. Is Dion Goss on here? See, people registered. They didn't get a chance to jump on. They're missing the awesome gift basket that I will send to them.
If I may make a suggestion for at least one of them, how about the very first attendee that hopped on the call today?
Oh.
Not one of us, but I mean one of the attendees, like the.
Okay, so you know what? So Mary Kate, that would be the gift basket that, so since you made that suggestion, so this Texas Roadhouse gift basket is going to go to, I believe, Miss Caitlin.
I think Caitlin was the very first one to hop on our call today.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So Miss Caitlin, I will make sure that I get your information. Congratulations.
Thank
Okay.
you. Yeah, I think I accidentally hopped on like 30 minutes early too.
I know, which I
Hey,
think is
so
incredible.
excited.
I think it's amazing.
Early bird gets the worm. So this is a Texas Roadhouse gift basket. So for the sake of time, I will deal with the Cracker Barrel gift basket after we do Q&A. And if you have to hop off, I totally understand. I want to be mindful of everybody's time. But audience, I want to hear from you. You can ask Justice, Mary Kate, myself, Co-Trika, any questions?
Hi, can
Don't
you
be
hear
shy.
me? Hello?
Hi, Reverend Barbara.
Hi, how are you? I bless you all. My
Oh, God bless
question,
you.
my question is, and I think you might have gone over it. What is the business of human trafficking? We hear about it all the time, but we really don't know the business of it. And the only thing that I know about the business of it is because Epstein was caught. So, and then I realized, oh my God, there's so much money in this. So the business of, could someone just speak on the business of human trafficking?
Justice or Co-Trika or Mary Kate, if you're able to briefly answer, either one.
Well, honestly, you already answered it. The business is money. The big business is money. Billions of dollars is generated through trafficking humans.
Right. And you can sell a victim over and over and over again. And as we mentioned before about, you know, they could go from starting at a young age doing labor, and then as they get older, or you know, back and forth, but it can happen over and over again, where a drug, a weapon sold one time. That's why it's such a lucrative business.
Thank you, Reverend Barbara.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking your question. Thank you, ladies, for answering. Does anyone else have a question that might have not been discussed during this episode?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, Miss Caitlin.
So if you were to see it, like if you were staying at a hotel, so I'm also in the Army and I had to do the Southwest Border Mission. So I stayed in a hotel for probably like 6 months. But I never really saw anything crazy there. But if I was to see something, do you think it's better to tell the hotel or like law enforcement, or is there like a hotline or like a center in the area? What's like the best way to, like, I guess, have it checked on sort of thing, just in case, like, if there was something actually happening there?
I think the first thing you should do is to call law enforcement. The reason why I say call law enforcement first, because unfortunately, I have been at hotels, and the hotels are involved with the acts. So I definitely would tell you to call law enforcement. If you see something, say something, do something thing. As far as going up to the person, or to the adult, the man, woman, or child, I wouldn't do that, because you wouldn't know where the trafficker is at. So first and foremost, for you to be safe, is to call law enforcement, then find out who you're speaking with, and then, you know, if you can find more information or tell someone, then someone can go in and speak to the hotel. We've done that several times. Like, we had cases, the hotel was involved with the situation. So of course we didn't want to go over there, because they were a part of the crime. So I definitely would say reach out to the law enforcement. We do have a human trafficking hotline number, and that number is 1-888-373-7888. So that's our human trafficking hotline that we can reach out to as well.
Get that in the chat too.
Yeah, so did I.
Thank you.
And
Yeah.
so it's so great because even the cab drivers, like the case that was happening in Guam, we have one main airport there, and the cab drivers were involved. You know, they're getting paid under the table. It's not always just the massage parlors too, but I know that that one's a common one as well. You just don't know who's involved.
Right.
And unfortunately, law enforcement officers were involved in that case as well. But we like to say, you know, that it's not always the case. But you just have to be mindful.
We're keeping hope alive.
Yes, you just really don't know who's involved. And utmost, as Justice said, make sure you are safe, that you are in a safe place.
Absolutely. So it's important to know the local, state, and national resources. Where, you know, let me ask you, the audience, do you know where a shelter is, your nearest shelter, that if you saw something or someone contacted you and said, I saw something, but I just don't know where to go or what to do or how to help this individual, by a show of hands, you know, where to send them, what information to give them? What do you do? And this is why it's so important for these type of events. Obviously, yeah, you know, you don't want to put yourself in harm's way, but you have to speak up and speak out. There's ways to do anonymous, you know, tips, calling the hotline. But again, be knowledgeable on what this is, what it looks like, and how you can make a difference. And it just create a conversation. That's all it takes. Create the conversation. Let's talk about it. Let's talk. I know it's uncomfortable. It could be triggering, but this is affecting too many people. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a question for Justice. This is Marty, Justice. Hi, I'm not showing myself because I still have my pajamas on, but anyway. And I believe you saw this movie too, Justice, Cage No More, with Loretta Devine. And my question is, okay, I know it's a movie, but you saw how hard she had to fight just to get authorities to go when this child, who her dad, human trafficked her to another country for money, and how hard she had to fight just to get someone to help her to go from the United States to another country to find these children, because there was actually two daughters in the movie. How would we do, if we knew someone that their child was sent to another country, how could we fight to get that child back? As far as authorities in this country helping us to get someone from the other country, because as in the movie, it was so difficult for her to get someone to help her to get to these children. How would we, if we knew that our child or someone's child was sent to another country for human trafficking, who would we go to?
Well, Marty, thank you. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate that. I think that you still would need to get in contact with your law enforcement. All law enforcement are not bad. We have some good people on there. So I definitely would reach out to that particular audience, is reaching out to law enforcement, especially if you know something and if something's going on, you can definitely reach out to us, Justice House of Hope, and then we can definitely reach out to, we have a couple of friends that work with the local FBI. So, you know, the information will be able to be shared with others to be able to help an individual to try to get back their loved ones and bring their loved ones back. It takes more than one, so all of us. It takes you, the neighbors, the law enforcement, everybody to be a part of trying to bring back the individual safely.
You're absolutely spot on, Justice. And thank you, Marty, for joining us and asking that question. I want to, anybody who works like with Dish Network, you know, we're like home providers, where you're going to people's home and providing a service. You could be the first responder or someone to notice that something is not right. If you see someone in a servitude position, or they're looking down, or maybe you're in the airport and you see this young girl trailing behind a person, and the person is always doing the speaking for them. Or like I said, you know, if you home improvements, anything, even going to a restaurant and you see someone who is disabled being mistreated or anything like that, open your eyes and know the signs. Or if you you're not too sure, at least call, you know, someone to say, hey, I believe this could be happening. Or if you are able to get alone with the person in the bathroom, you can say, do you need help, or something like that. But again, we must use our mouth. We have to speak up. We have to speak out. We have to bring awareness to this. I'll take one more question. I know we're a little bit over time. So if you do have to hop off, this is such an amazing conversation. I don't want it to stop. But I want to be mindful of everyone and to give you the information that you need. So anybody else has any questions?
I did want to add that you don't have to try to come up with the materials yourself. You know, between like Justice's organization, Shared Hope, there's so many organizations out there that are doing great work. Make sure that they're legitimate organizations, and make sure that if there are numbers involved with, you know, ages of victims or numbers of people that are getting trafficked in your area, make sure that you're fact checking those numbers and that they're coming from legitimate sources. Because equally as we have good people out there, there's equally bad people out there that are pushing negative propaganda. So just make sure that what you're reading and what you're pushing out is factual. And we can help you with those materials too.
And I also wanted to share, I know we're running out of time. Traffickers are everywhere. I just want the audience to know this. Trafficker is at your mall. Trafficker is at your school. They're at your foster homes. They're everywhere. So be mindful. What I would say, get the knowledge. The knowledge is free. Ask for us to come in and do some training. The awareness is definitely necessary. This is not just a third world country pandemic. It is in our own backyard. So I definitely like to say that. And you know, talk to your children. Be mindful what's going on. We're doing virtual school learning. Just be mindful of what's going on with your children and in your surroundings.
Perfect. Co-Trika, did you have any one last thing to say, honey?
Yet again, just educate yourself, be knowledgeable, and use wisdom. Never approach anyone. Never approach anyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. I am blessed that I'm a regular contributor for the Roaring Wind Tribute. It's a Christian newspaper that started out of Southern Maryland. It's free. It's at many of the grocery stores and churches and things like that, but they also have it online. And this is my third time writing for the cover. And again, for Human Trafficking Awareness Month, the whole front cover, and then it continues on page 4. And I share a lot of great tidbits. So check out roaringwindtribute.com to check out this paper, whether you're able to pick it up if you live in Southern Maryland, or the online version. Many people don't realize that human trafficking intersects with the pornography industry, the abortion industry. Many of your victims, when it comes to sex trafficking, they're introduced to their clients through the pornography industry. So when you think of COVID-19, everybody is shut in. Just in New Jersey alone, online demand for sex trafficking or for victims went up 200%. 200%, and that was just in New Jersey alone, because many people think, well, I'm just watching pornography, I'm not hurting anybody, but they don't realize that many of those people who are performing in there are not doing it willingly. and have been forced or coerced. And therefore, the demand of the pornography sensation is driving the supply, the increase for the supply. When you see the faces, like if you're at Walmart or any stores, post offices, and you see the children that are missing, think in your mind that more than likely they're being trafficked or they are no longer amongst us. Also, your social media, be mindful as your children are doing virtual learning, be mindful that not everybody on social media is who they say they are, and be mindful of the apps like TikTok and Snapchat. Again, they can get drawn in. So again, I go over, and then the abortion industry. That is a permanent way to get rid of the evidence if a victim becomes pregnant. And again, the body gets used and used and used. We have to know about this. And I'm so grateful that you all took the time to join us. And I hope you learned something from it. I'm willing to stay on just a little bit longer. I don't know about our guests. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for joining, for taking the time to share the flyer, for registering, for supporting. Please support Justice House of Hope and Shared Hope International and Unstoppable You Ministries. So when you have an opportunity, if you have the funds and you would like to make a monetary donation, please think of our nonprofit organizations, 501c3. Also, if you want to volunteer, become an ambassador, to know more information, please, 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 think of us as a resource for you, your church, your schools, what have you. We are passionate about bringing this information. I can't thank you enough. My name is Jennifer Foxworthy. I am grateful to be your host of Living Unshackled on Purpose. Thank you.